bonjour. Bonjour les amis, bonjour from Paris. Bienvenue. I'm going to wait a few minutes for everyone to roll in. Bienvenue. Some people are happy they're here. Good. I know you recognize this site, what I'm showing you right now. Could somebody confirm the sound is good for you? It's a very loud area. Somebody could just give me a sound check, that'd be perfect. Bonjour, bonjour, bienvenue. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Or whatever way possible. Hey Phyllis. I see lots of bonjour and coucou, but so far no confirmation you can hear me. That would be good. Bonjour. Okay, finally, thank you. Sound is good. Excellent, thank you for confirming. All right, friends, we are in the heart of Paris here, along the Grand Boulevard, along Boulevard Haussmann, outside some of the most famous department stores in Paris, and you're looking at one of them right now, Le Printemps. You probably remember that Le Printemps has a main competitor, which is known as les Gallery Lafayette, and the gallery is all the way over there on the left-hand side, on my side of the street as well. And these guys have been competing since the late 19th century, roughly. And they've had a pretty rough year. It's been really hard for them. And like other department stores in Paris, who work with locals a lot, Le Printemps and les Galeries Lafayette, 40 to 50% of their clientele are affluent foreigners. And so you can imagine what a big hit they've taken this year with all the travel restrictions. We were all so happy when they reopened yesterday as part of the deconfinement phase. As you know, we are in our second confinement of the year, second lockdown, and as of yesterday, all non-essential businesses have been allowed to reopen with the exception of restaurants and cafes. So the department stores have reopened, and we were happy to see that they, in spite of everything, they have worked really hard at creating some Christmas cheer to do something special for the holidays. You can see the street is really lit up. It's very pretty. It's going to get even prettier once nighttime arrives, which shouldn't be too long. Welcome, bonjour everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Véronique. My friends call me Véro. I wear several hats. I am a Paris-based tour guide, a travel blogger, an adult educator. I create content in social media. I have done that for about 10 years now, but I like to think of myself as a storyteller. And so today I will tell you more stories about Paris, about France. We may travel back in time, in fact, since this area was so popular and really thrived in the 19th century. We've been spending a lot of time in the 19th century if you followed my live stream trolls recently. Strolls, did I say trolls? Strolls. So this is a loud area, which makes live streaming very challenging. To make things more complicated, when I arrived here about 20 minutes ago, I saw there was a demonstration. It happens in France even during a lockdown. So I think it's wrapping up now. We should be fine, but it's complicated things for drivers, which is why some of the drivers are honking and getting very impatient, in case you're wondering. But hopefully we won't hear too much noise. Bienvenue, welcome. My goal today is to do what I do on these strolls, is to tell stories as well as sharing some Parisian street vibes and some holiday cheer, because let's face it, we could use some holiday cheers right now. We're going to be very careful when we're crossing streets here. For a Sunday afternoon, it's quite busy, and that's because those two department stores are open today. And they had been open on Sundays for quite a few years, but now especially trying to make up for all the lost income over the last few months. So you probably know that Le Printemps and Les Galeries do a lot of special things for Christmas. And I know Les Galeries Lafayette have been featured in social media in the last few days. Their beautiful Christmas windows, the gorgeous Christmas tree that they erect in the middle of one of their stores. And I shared a video actually of this tree today on Facebook and Instagram if you'd like to go see it later. But because I am the producer on this show, I am going to make an executive decision and show you the shop windows, the displays at Le Printemps in spite of the demonstration. So I might have to cross on this side because otherwise you won't be able to hear me. So what they're shouting about, I could figure out, is it's a small group and they are demonstrating in favor of refugees who have no homes in Paris, and they're asking the government to requisition real estate to house the refugees. There have been a few events recently where they've clashed with the police. It's been all over the news. So I'm sorry to say, my friends, if you are investors in Paris and have apartments that are standing empty right now, the French government might want to requisition them if you listen to these guys. I'm joking, of course. Can you hear them? The police is here. There are lots of police here. And it's a lot busier than I would like. I've been trying to stay away from crowds. But you've got to do what you've got to do. Requisition. I will show them to you. Here they are. Here they are. They want empty housing requisition. No worries, it's not dangerous. Now, don't be surprised. It's hard for me to read your comments as I live stream. I am safe, don't worry. All right, my friends, Le Printemps. The Gallery Lafayette chose a theme that had to do with Christmas and travel. I like Le Printemps. I like this theme. This is Le Printemps' theme this year. Partageons Noël. Let's share Christmas. And that's what I'm trying to do with you today. So I thought those displays would be interesting to you. I actually prefer them to the ones at Gallery Lafayette. So what they've done, it'll get quieter as I get to the other side, don't worry. We have windows and we have a theme on each window. You see this one? It's called Le Noël des Deschamps. So each family has a name, and usually the name is a play on words. Les Deschamps. So Les Deschamps, it's a name, but it also means a field. They come from the fields. So these people are celebrating Christmas in the countryside. It's very pretty. See this beautiful table? Now, a lot of these display windows are sponsored by brands, and when they are, they will give you the name of the brand. So here are the Deschamps family. Meet the Deschamps. Now the children are loving this, of course. It's a big tradition in Paris. Hard to get close to some of the windows. This one is a hit. This one is called Le Noël des Pieds Marins. So the Pieds Marins family, those are the ones who do really well. If you have a Pieds Marins, you do really well on boats. As you can see, this is a cruise ship. And so les Pieds Marins are having a grand old time on a cruise ship. Bonjour Alain et Jocelyne. Do you see them? And what's really funny, trying to not cut off somebody, we have Santa Claus as our DJ. Yeah, a lot of big cities do this at Christmas time. I've seen some pretty amazing windows in New York City as well. Look at this guy dancing through the porthole. So these people are determined to have a great time, and they're doing this on a cruise ship. I don't know how many people are on cruise ships right now, but these people certainly are. Welcome, bonjour if you've just joined us. We are strolling along Boulevard Haussmann in the heart of Haussmann in Paris. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And you are so lucky because you are getting a demonstration to boot. This is the real life in Paris, folks. It's not all shopping at exclusive department stores. This is what we do here. There you go. I'm starting to know the little song by heart. Réquisition.
Madame Barco, une solution, c'est la réquisition.
All right. Who's the next family? Le Noël des Mille Bornes. And this one is sponsored by the brand Zadig et Voltaire. You know that brand clothing? And do you know that game? It's a very popular card game that's been around forever. Les Mille Bornes. And so these guys, presumably, Mille Bornes, like to travel. So they have a sled, and they are going to celebrate Christmas with a sled, and their beautiful clothing comes from the brand Zadig et Voltaire. Yeah, Paris is that. A lot of noise all the time, a lot of traffic, demonstrations. It's also that living in Paris. We continue our little exploration of the different ways these families, we're saying those fictional families, are celebrating Christmas and sharing Christmas, most importantly. That's one of my favorites. Les Printanias, the Printanias. This is a play on words with the name of the store, Le Printemps. So what these guys are celebrating, I'm going to try and sneak through. What they are celebrating are Paris, and look at the beautiful decor. They are celebrating Paris and Le Printemps department store. Look at that. This is the typical architecture from this store. And watch this. Le Printania. I hope you're enjoying this. I know it's loud. So much for peace and quiet, but then again, I didn't think I'd find it here.
Tu veux aller voir là?
Pardon, merci. Now see, the lights are starting to come on, and with nighttime it's going to get really pretty. So this is one, we were outside one of the Printemps stores, the one dedicated to gentlemen, and now we are going to go look at the window displays of the women's store, which stands right next to it. Now, Le Printemps, you may know this already, was one of the early department stores in Paris and in Europe. The first department stores actually appeared in the 18th century, what could be called department stores or large stores. But the one that's usually credited for starting it all was the Bon Marché on the left bank in the 7th arrondissement. After that, the BHV, Paris Bazar de l'Hôtel de Ville by the Hôtel de Ville, opened as well in the second half of the 19th century during a time period known as the Second Empire, when Napoleon III was the ruler. And then the Printemps opened right after that, 1865 exactly. The Gallery Lafayette much later, in the 1890s. They were the young ones around the block. So the Printemps is one of the most traditional stores. And why it's very original is that from the start, Le Printemps catered to a very affluent clientele. And the gentleman who created the store, his name was Jules Jaluzeau. He was a former employee of the Bon Marché. And he felt that this neighborhood was really going to take off. Haussmann was starting, Baron Haussmann was starting to carve out large streets and avenues, especially in this section of Paris. It would attract the bourgeoisie, a very affluent clientele, and Jalouseau knew that there would be a market for a store catering to the upper classes here in Paris. And from the start, more than any other store in Paris, really, the Printemps was a very elegant, very beautiful store, always trying to innovate and launch things first. For example, did you know it was the first public building in Paris to be entirely lit up with electricity? The first. So this one is le Noël des courants d'air. Un courant d'air, it's a fun name. A courant d'air is a drafty. So the drafty family likes the outdoors. I'm not sure they had a choice. Maybe they're stranded. You can see these signs pointing towards the store, Le Printemps, and towards Paris. And here is the famille Courant d'Air. They're camping. They're just camping, but celebrating the holidays, celebrating Christmas all the same. And that is the message here. Wherever you are, no matter what circumstances in this very interesting year of 2020, just, the show must go on. Just celebrate as best you can. And that's what Le Printemps here is trying to do. Now, I could have shown you the window displays at Gallery Lafayette. They've been featured in social media, like I said earlier. There's a reason I came to Le Printemps. I used to work in this neighborhood for a few years. And like many Parisians will argue over whether the Printemps is better than Les Galeries Lafayette. And a lot of people prefer Le Printemps actually in Paris. And when I lived here more than 25 years ago, I did what a lot of my friends did. When I got married, my wedding registry was at the Printemps. So I've always liked this store more than the other. Le Noël des Touchous is hilarious. So the Touchous, it's a play on word. That's based on a German word, Touchous. When the French go skiing and they want to go really fast downhill and really straight, they say Touchous. So this is a family who is skiing, but guess what? They got caught in a gondola. I'm gonna wait for this lady to, there we go. And so they got caught in the gondola, but they are celebrating. You see the gondola says Printemps 1865, that's when the store was born. And you can see they're having a great time. And they're even having fondue. I don't know if you can see the fondue on the table. Who knew you could have fondue in a gondola? And I know the part that was making kids giggle yesterday, so I want to show it to you. There were little children really giggling over this yesterday without tripping over strollers. What they were really enjoying was this little girl here who went downhill, 2 shoes probably, very fast, and landed on a tree. Now, a lot of people know the beautiful dome in the Galerie Lafayette, and right now, of course, it's center stage with the beautiful Christmas tree. Bonjour. But some people don't realize that the Printemps also has a beautiful dome. It's not as famous, it's not as advertised probably, and it sits in one of the stores, and I urge you to go see it. It's a beautiful dome with a restaurant bar under it, and the views also from the terrace of Le Printemps used to be better than Galerie because they were panoramic. You could go 360 degrees. I don't know if it's still the case. Right now, they're still closed. Here's our next family, le Noël des Dubois. The Dubois, from the woods, right? Le bois is the forest. So here you see a sign that says Forêt de l'Éternel Printemps, Forest of the Eternal Printemps. I hope it's not just wishful thinking. I hope they will be here for a very long time. This year has been really hard on them. They announced a few weeks ago they were closing some stores all over France. But this is the mothership, and I sure hope they stay here for a long time because this is really a Parisian institution. You see, very elegant, aren't they? Look at this beautiful red coat on the gentleman. and the crystalware on the table. And this delicious cake over there, pièce montée. And what I want to show you is that in their family, the same thing happens. The kids are really looking at this and having fun, because the same thing happens in their family that happens for other families. They're having this fancy celebration and the child in the family is bored with the adults. So what is he doing? He's lying down here behind his mother probably and playing on a video game, playing video games. So the kids love this because they can relate probably. He's also very smart because he's hiding right by the dessert tray there, the dessert section. I see 345 of you. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy this stroll. I have quite a few things to show you. It's getting a little cold now, and dusk will be replaced by nighttime very soon, so we should have some very pretty Parisian sights on the way. A few more windows from Le Printemps. Le Printemps has a great story. It's a story of survival, really. There were two very devastating fires here at this store in the late 19th century and in the 1920s, and they always rebounded, they always rebuilt, and it's just a beautiful store. Le Noël des Dujardins, and that's sponsored by a French brand named De Vialet. They sell high-end audio equipment like speakers and things like that. So les Dujardins, let's go see les Dujardins if we can. Now this is like crossing the street, except I'm just crossing the sidewalk. Welcome to Paris. Here we go. De Vialet, that's the brand sponsoring. You can see the beautiful decor behind it. And those speakers are prominently displayed by the company, of course. And we have a very elegant family here, the grandfather too, and they are enjoying and sharing a very lovely, what seems to be a goûter actually, late afternoon snacks. You see? Les petits gâteaux, the little cookies. And then you have two ladies here, and what I want to show you are the doggies, because we have two doggies, little bulldogs. Pardon, excusez-moi, merci. Ah, the next one is a popular one too, so there's a crowd there. This is almost as crowded as it was last night. I'm just shocked. But people have been, I was going to say, locked inside for a while, and the stores were closed, so it's understandable. They're all happy to get their stores back. Le Noël des fanfarons. Fanfaron. So une fanfare is a band. But fanfaron is also, it's a play on words. Fanfaron is also somebody who brags a lot. But here you'll see it's related to music. It's a family that's turned itself into an actual band. Les fanfarons.
J'ai fait la journée complète en vélo et tout.
We have Christmas trees.
Attends, tu as vu, je vais à un moment, en fait, c'est dans une...
And you have them all playing all sorts of instruments.
Tu vois pas ce qu'il y a après le virage. Et à un moment, tu découvres.
Let me squeeze by, pardon monsieur. Maybe on this side. Now do this.
Élise, tu peux te rapprocher, mon amour.
Now these shows have been traditional. They've been here for a really long time. They get more and more sophisticated each year. At the beginning they were really puppets, but now of course it's fully automated. There's a lot of work going on there behind the scenes. I think that they set up about 95, 96 different characters and puppets this year. And I read somewhere it took more than 3 months to set this up. So they worked through the confinement, which must have been really weird, because there were no customers on the sidewalks, there were no customers in the store. It must have been very quiet as they were working here. Oops, squeezing by. I'm so glad you're enjoying this. Thank you for being here. I promised I would share some Christmas cheer. So thanks to Le Printemps, we can do that. All right, let's see what we can do. I think we need to strategize here because there are a lot of people. Isn't this pretty? So if you keep going, you will reach the Gallery Lafayette, the second store that has several stores on both sides of the street. And they also have their own windows. But instead, I am going to cross the street here so we can look back and admire the buildings from the other side. I think it will be worth your while. So we are on Boulevard Haussmann. This avenue, this boulevard is named after the man who literally transformed Paris in the second half of the 19th century. He worked really hard for 20 years almost. And once he was finished, Paris just didn't look the same. It had turned into a very modern city. And in many ways, the Paris we know today in most neighborhoods is the Paris that Haussmann and his boss at the time, Napoleon III, created. There are still areas that were left untouched, where you can, if you try really hard, picture Paris in the 18th century and maybe even in the Middle Ages. But so many neighborhoods were impacted by what they did at that time. And a different social class emerged in the second half of the 19th century. It was the Industrial Revolution, and so the bourgeoisie emerged, very affluent people. I've taken you on 2 live strolls in my neighborhood in the 17th arrondissement, which is about 20 minutes away. And you've seen the type of mansions they used to build. You've seen how they lived. And they would love to come here, of course. They will come here to these stores, to Le Printemps, to the Gallery Lafayette, and other department stores in Paris, the ladies especially, to shop. I am going to show you, I think, right here. This is a good spot, I think. How much more Parisian can this get? You have the metro entrance on the left. This is the Opéra station. It actually takes you, this one, to a train called the RER, not the metro. You have one of the buildings of the Printemps, and you can see the cupolas, les coupoles, the cupolas that the store is famous for. Each building has 4 on all the corners. So the architecture of Le Printemps, I think, is a lot more spectacular from the street than the architecture at Gallery Lafayette. And then I'll let you decide if you prefer the interior decoration and atmosphere of one or the other. But there is no doubt that Le Printemps is really the one that stands out. Their goal was to be the classiest, the most elegant, and they have certainly achieved that. This is the start of Les Galeries right here, and they keep going over there, and then they're also on this side. Now, there are 2 reasons I like this neighborhood. I've worked here twice, actually, just to be a little bit personal here. I'll show my face eventually at some point for those of you who have joined us recently and don't know me. I used to work in a store that was located right here, and it was the flagship store in Paris for an English company called Marks & Spencer. So when I was in grad school for 2 years, I worked part-time here. I spent a lot of time here, made a lot of friends in that store, so I knew this neighborhood pretty well. And then years later, when I joined the corporate world, I worked for American Express in France for almost a decade before I moved to Seattle. I worked at the big travel agency that American Express had for decades in this neighborhood. So I would spend quite a few lunch hours chewing on a sandwich, that's right, fast food, and walking around and looking at the window displays, especially at Christmas time, and enjoying everything. But today, Marks & Spencer is gone. They're only represented with their food stores now, but all the big Marks & Spencer stores have left a long time ago. And now we have Les Galeries Lafayette. They've actually taken over this building. They have the gourmet shop, which is fairly new, and the home store as well. So will these stores survive 2020, the crisis? We already know Le Printemps is laying off people and closing stores. We certainly hope they will be okay eventually, but I know they're really worried. They're not sure that the next few weeks are going to enable them to make up for all the lost income. And it's just not the COVID crisis, it's also what happened last year. We had strikes, we had transportation strikes, we had the Yellow Vests protest that had the stores closed on Saturdays for months on end. So these people, and not just the big stores, all the stores have had a really, really rough year or year and a half. This is the entrance to the gourmet store, the Gallery Lafayette. Good, yummy things in there and top brands. Okay, can you hear them honking? That's very Paris. Somebody is trying to cut off everybody else. So now everybody stopped and they're all honking, but nobody can move. I always tell my American friends, four-way stops, intersections would never work in Paris, never. Look at this guy trying to get across. Yay, he did it. Well done. Advice to you, my friends, if you're thinking about moving to Paris, don't buy a car. You won't need one. Driving will be bad. Looking for places to park will be even worse. Use your feet, use your legs, use the public transportation, use Uber if you have to, or another company, but don't drive in Paris. Look at this entrance. That's pretty, isn't it? You can see it's pretty new because it's so clean and there's a big name here, Jan Couvreur. So they all go now for this affluent foreign clientele, and maybe right about now they're sorry for making those choices because this clientele hasn't been able to travel for the last few months, and the stores who worked with the local clientele as well, like the Bon Marché and the BHV, have done much better. So now I am headed towards this building, which of course you recognize for those of you who have been to Paris, and even if you haven't. This is the Opera House of Paris, one of them, because we have two. A lot of people forget, but we do have two of them. Police is here. I hope they won't check my attestation. It would slow us down. Phew. Everything okay? I had done what needs to be done, but I would just hate for them to ask 20 questions while you guys are just waiting. That wouldn't be fun. So here you are on La Rue Scribe, S-C-R-I-B-E. This is a street where I used to work when I worked for American Express, because the travel agency was right at the street corner there. And today it's been turned into a beautiful Nespresso store. But picture this area in the 19th century. All these department stores coming out of the ground. We will talk about the opera in a minute. Prestigious hotels, restaurants, cafes. So this is where the beautiful people socialized and lived in Paris. Bonjour, monsieur. Massive construction everywhere. So in fact, this is the Nespresso store. And I remember stepping inside here, and my office was above this. So we would watch from upstairs the people coming in to change their traveler's checks. Do you remember traveler's checks? That was a big part of people coming there. So pretty at night, isn't it? Now, Christmas lighting is not everywhere, but Paris does a pretty good job at lighting up buildings. So it's always possible to find a pretty building here. It's a little dark, but I feel like we should stop and pay a tribute to a gentleman whose statue stands here. Let's see, right here. It's very dark. His name was Charles Garnier, and he was Garnier. The opera is named after him. And Charles Garnier was very, very young when he won the contest that Napoleon III launched to find the architect who would build him a new opera house. And the reason he wanted a new opera house was that the old opera house he didn't consider very safe. It sat in another neighborhood and there had been an attempt on his life. And so because he lived in a palace that is now gone, down the street from here, I'll show you the general direction later, he lived in a palace known as the Tuileries Palace that was connected to the Louvre. And it's now gone, this palace. It was destroyed during an uprising in 1871. Napoleon, though, the III, wanted, look at this. Look at these lights. These are lights. You see them? Napoleon asked Charles Garnier to design an opera, and then he asked Haussmann to dig out an avenue, l'avenue de l'Opéra, the avenue of the opera, that would connect the beautiful building to the Tuileries Palace in one straight line. So it would be safe for him to come in his carriage and to arrive through a special entrance we just passed, so he could get out of his carriage in a completely safe way, and it would be much better for him. The joke about it is that, remember hearing the story of how Haussmann, who was very bossy, that was his job, I guess, had a big argument with Charles Garnier, the architect, because when they designed the Avenue de l'Opéra, the big avenue facing the opera house, Haussmann wanted to make it look pretty and add trees along the avenue. And Charles Garnier said, absolutely not. We can't have trees breaking up the view, the perspective from down there all the way to my beautiful opera house. And so guess who won? Well, Haussmann lost, and there are no trees along the Avenue de l'Opéra today. I'm going to save the best view for last. It's right behind me now. So here we stand on a big square called La Place de l'Opéra, named after the opera. And what you see here is pure Haussmannian. This is basically Haussmann Central. This is the Paris that, if you ever want to know what Haussmann created, you have to come here. This whole neighborhood, all these buildings, very special architecture. Everything was determined. The height of the buildings, the way they looked, their facades, and the height of the buildings was determined by the width of each street. So it was all balanced, harmonious. And he did that all over Paris. But it's very striking here. And this neighborhood changed forever when they did that. They were building the opera house. They were building this big avenue that sits all the way down there, straight ahead from us. And if you kept going, you would reach the Louvre Museum, which was a palace at the time, and the Tuileries Palace, which is now gone. So picture, in spite of all these cars, picture the carriages. Picture, this is what Napoleon III wanted to do. Come up this big avenue in his carriage very safely to come and watch the opera and meet all the people in this gorgeous, gorgeous building. L'Opéra Garnier, the Paris Opera House, one of the two. The other one was built much, much later in the 1980s. And this is what you see. On the front it says Académie Nationale de Musique, National Academy of Music. I don't know if some of you have been lucky enough to watch a show here, an opera or another show, a ballet. I never have. I've visited the building several times, but I never have. Maybe that's something I'll do later on. I know. This is one of the most remarkable buildings in Paris, and it inspired other buildings in other cities and countries. It was quite a masterpiece for a young architect barely out of school, who's around 35 years old. Now, the irony about this building is that Napoleon III fought a war against Prussia in 1870, was defeated, went into exile and died shortly thereafter. The opera was not completed at the time. It was only completed in 1875, or inaugurated in 1875. So, in fact, Napoleon III never got to ride up the Avenue de l'Opéra, up to this beautiful building he had dreamed of, where a special section had been built for him. He never got to do it. And the irony, I think that's ironical, is that this building was inaugurated in 1875 by a completely different regime, because by then we were under the Second Empire had collapsed, the emperor was gone, and it was inaugurated under the Third Republic. So if this is not irony, I don't know what is. I mean, it's really interesting. And there are many stories about this building. You can visit it with tour guides. They will tell you all the stories about it. Stories, anecdotes, secrets. One of the cool parts about it is that if you're lucky enough to get all the way to those rooftops over there, apparently you have one of the most incredible views in all of Paris. I've never done it. And all the way to the bottom, if you go to the basement, the foundations of the building, you would find something that Charles Garnier designed to stabilize the building because the ground was not very stable. And he actually created a body of water, which is known as an artificial lake, but I'm not really sure we should call it a lake. But anyway, there is water down there that was there to stabilize the building. And that water, they have fish in there. There used to be fish in there. Some people go diving in there. The building is so massive, so elaborate, so beautiful. It's been said that only the people who've worked there for years know all the corners of that building. And the other people who know it intimately are the firemen, because the firemen constantly patrol in the opera. They know all the secret passageways, all the corners, the basement, they know it all. So, highly recommend, if you're a single lady, to date a Parisian fireman. Not only are they very nice, they're also usually handsome. And Perk, they will take you inside the opera house and show you all the hidden corners. I might actually myself work on that eventually, we'll see. I think it'd be a good idea, don't you? It's a lovely place. Now, this was the heart of 19th century Paris. Even before the opera was completed, the department stores were going up as well. And we had theaters around here, and we had beautiful cafes and restaurants and prestigious hotels. Café de la Paix, do you see the name Café de la Paix across from me in that dark green color that was so popular during the Second Empire? This is a beautiful restaurant. You really feel when you're in that restaurant what it was like to live under Napoleon III during the Second Empire in Paris. This is because in March it went into a heavy remodel mode, and it was scheduled to reopen in December. So I'm not sure it's actually going to happen. It's still connected to a hotel, like it was at that time, just a different hotel. But Le Café de la Paix is a wonderful place. And if you like a pastry known as le millefeuille, 1,000 layers, which in other countries is called a Napoleon, I highly recommend you go and try le millefeuille au Café de la Paix in that beautiful environment. I mean, you won't believe it. This boulevard here is called the Boulevard des Capucines. It's a pretty name, Capucine. It's a flower. What is it in English? Nasturtium, I think. And so what a lot of people don't realize, because, oh dear, look at them, look at them, look at them. Watch Parisians in action, France. This is it. Look at them, look at them. Honk, honk, honk. Fun times. What a lot of people don't realize about the Grand Boulevard, the great boulevards, is that it's not Haussmann who created them. In fact, this Boulevard des Capucines was first built during a long time before Haussmann and Napoleon III. It was built during in the 17th century by Louis XIV, the Sun King. But what Haussmann did is that he carved out, he just changed everything here. These buildings went up, and by building this big square where I'm standing, La Place de l'Opéra, he just split it in half. So this section is Boulevard des Capucines, and then this section over there is also Boulevard des Capucines, and then it turns into another boulevard, le Boulevard des Italiens, the Italians Boulevard. But you have a lot of high-end stores here, or at least you used to. Lancel is one of them, if you like beautiful handbags and leather. So this is the story I wanted to tell you today. One last I'm looking for a better signal. Here we go, better signal here. One piece of trivia I like about the Opera House is that Charles Garnier did something that really influenced other architects. As you come inside the opera and you visit it, there is a room downstairs known as La Rotonde des Abonnés. So basically the room that welcomed special members as they arrived off their carriages to mingle before the show in that special room. And on the ceiling, there is a beautiful, it's almost like a frieze. It's carved out. Peaceful Paris. On the ceiling there is something quite beautiful, and if you look really closely you will see that Charles Garnier signed it and that there are dates, the dates of the construction of the opera on that ceiling, 1861 to 1875. And Charles Garnier did this. It was great publicity for him because he made sure his name was up there. But what that did is that it also influenced architects who worked with him. And all right, I will cross over. I know the connection was terrible. And I'm back up now. I will wrap up in just a few minutes. I'm going to stand right on the beautiful steps of the opera. And to finish the story, because I don't know if you heard the end of it, when Charles Garnier signed the ceiling inside the opera, he influenced a lot of other architects who worked with him and those who came after him. And this is why in Paris today, you see so many facades where the architect has signed and put his name up with a date. It's not to show off, but it's to say this is a label, a quality label. I am proud of the work I've done, and I signed this facade, put my name on it because I'm proud. And Charles Garnier, the young architect who designed the Opera House, was actually the first one who did it. And that is what it's for, really. So, friends, time to say a little goodbye with the Opera House behind me. I hope you can see it. Yee! You can see it, but you can see me for a few seconds. I hope you've enjoyed the stroll. I'm sorry we had connection issues at the end. That's always possible with live streaming, it happens. Again, my name is Véro. Christmas is around the corner. I won't have time to put up a boutique to sell merchandise. I won't have time to write a book. I won't have time to write a song, which is what people do around Christmas time. So people can choose Christmas present and at the same time support their business. Those live streams, the content I share almost daily on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, is how I support my business. And I would urge you to consider joining my private club, the Friends with Véro Club. Not only will you help me create more content in social media, I want to continue sharing free content if I can, but you will also get many, many rewards, such as exclusive events and photos. Yesterday, I took my club members along a beautiful market street in my neighborhood and introduced a lot of the shops to them, and they really enjoyed it. And they will get extra photos from this walk tonight. They will get a lot more things than we have seen right now. So consider joining the club. Patreon.com/FrenchGirl in Seattle for the cost of a glass of wine a month. Treat yourself. It'll be your Christmas present. You might not be able to return to Paris and France right away, unfortunately, and I can be your connection to Paris and France in the meantime. This tour guide accepts tips gratefully in her virtual tip jar on PayPal and on Venmo. That's also in the notes. And in the meantime, continue sharing what I create. YouTube especially, subscribe to my channel, like all the videos on YouTube. Apparently the YouTube algorithm thrives on likes, so like any video you see there. There are many waiting for you. Thank you for joining me tonight. I have a few policemen standing next to me who are waiting patiently for me to wrap up before they ask me what I'm doing. So I will wrap up now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will be in touch very soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.